Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com, PWRshow.com, and on Blog Talk Radio. Damian Nelson here along with David Octavius Hero, and David Hero, tonight is one of the most talked about shows that we've ever done, and we haven't even done it yet, because tonight we welcome two guests of epic proportions, and the first one, we're not going to waste any time, because this is hot news.
Well, yeah, I don't want to waste his time either.
Big, sexy Kevin Nash is live with us right now here on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. Kevin Nash, how are you tonight, sir?
I didn't have to get clearance to be on either.
So that means we won't get the phone call asking what happened, right, Kev?
No, we won't get it. You guys won't get in any trouble.
Beautiful.
Kevin Nash, the big news. I guess I'll let you break it, but your relationship with TNA Wrestling.
As of right now, I don't have a contract with them. I am a free agent.
A free agent. Kevin Nash, a free agent in wrestling again. You were unbound for glory this past Sunday night, obviously on Impact tonight, and now you're saying you're no longer contracted to TNA Wrestling. How did that happen? What happened? What was the decision process where you parted ways with TNA?
If I told you, you wouldn't believe me, but anyway.
We've learned to believe everything that comes out of your mouth, believe you me.
I started like preliminary discussions with them, and we threw some numbers around, and like anything else, they're going to start low, and I'm going to start where I want to be at.
Mm-hmm.
We never got, where anybody agreed on anything, and then a week went by, and 2 weeks went by, and I never was handed. I never was ever physically handed a hard contract to look at, go over, discuss, mark up, make decisions on. It just fell through the cracks. So.
Well, Kev, what it looks like is that they spent way too much time on the contract with JWoww from the Jersey Shore. I obviously think that means a lot more.
Is that the same as saying that you've got, like back in the day when the Bulls won, like the double three-peat, and they say that if you hurry to the mall, you've got one of the Bulls that are waiting to sign autographs, and you get there and it's Bill Weddington.
Pretty much, yeah. That's pretty much what they've done. I mean,
it's like, if it's not, I don't watch the show, but I know who Snooki is, and I know who, the situation is, so it's just like, what? Actually, in the philosophy of Kevin Nash, good for her. I'm glad she got a payday.
Well, and that payday reported to be $15,000 for that 4 or 5 minutes that we saw her. That's a lot of ducats for a one-time appearance.
Well, I just thought she should have got collar. Kind of a payoff, but I guess I'm old school.
Kev, obviously you've had great success pretty much everywhere you've gone. And when you went to TNA and you first started out there, I believe it was still in Nashville, correct, where it was pretty much Jeff Jarrett called all the shots.
Right.
And then Dixie gets involved. And now it's Hogan and Bischoff. So you've pretty much seen it go from Jeff to where it is right now.
Right.
What do you think? Can this company survive another 3 or 4 or 5 more years at the rate they're going?
It's kind of hard. It's almost like when the company changes CFOs and CEOs, like on an 8-month basis, and that guy comes in and it basically takes that person 4 or 5 months to kind of evaluate where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and then change gears and go in an opposite direction. And when you continue to do that, I look at what the WWE is doing, and, Vince McMahon is going with this youth movement. But anybody that has spent any time really studying professional wrestling knows that the guys that have drawn money in this business, their glory years or their best years are usually usually 35 to 40.
Mm-hmm.
It basically takes at least 10 years to season a guy to where he can draw you money. And, you know, I think the basis probably of their roster is probably at the 3-year mark. So I've got to give TNA the edge simply because our guys are at the 5, 6, 7 mark, and these guys are at the 2, 3 mark. So by the time, you know, 3 years comes around, and it's not like, you know, it's not like they're doing a 5 and we're doing a .6. It's, you know, we're doing a 1, 2, 1, 3, and they're doing a, you know, a 2, 8.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you know, TNA is definitely, you know, closed that gap. So it just
it takes a while to grow. It takes a while to build. And granted, TNA's been around 7, 8 years now almost,
right.
But still, as David said, you know, so many regime changes, if you will, going through all these. You know, there was a big announcement every month, it seemed, for a while, and each of those big announcements may not have been as big as people would have expected it to be, but this seemingly has been a slow simmer with TNA over the last few months and really culminated at Bound for Glory. And now we see on Impact tonight the story continuing, and Dixie Carter and Hogan and Bischoff and all that stuff. Granted, that, you know, that storyline, but it's got a little bit of realism to it feels.
I think any time that you can make a storyline that has any degree of realism to it, I mean, it's just going to play out better. And I think the emotions stronger. I mean, it almost, you would almost get the appearance tonight if you watched me that I actually was leaving. I mean, it's just the way I walked out, just there's a certain realism to it.
Yeah, well, it did have that feel when you were walking towards the back and didn't look back. It's like, oh, he's gone. He's not coming back anymore.
I wasn't like Sting was like still playing with the camera. I was like, okay, segment over.
Now, Kevin, you've been known to be very outspoken, and there's been some. You're on Twitter. Real Kevin Nash is your name on Twitter, and a couple of weeks ago where you started hinting, or well, not really hinting, but basically saying that it might be time for you to take some time for yourself and do sort of like Shawn Michaels did and step out of the ring for a little while.
It's funny. I talked to on Thursday on my way to TV. I talked to Shawn. I called Shawn Michaels, and he and I talked from the minute I left my driveway to the minute I pulled up to the back gate, which is, in that traffic that day, was probably about 85, 90 minutes that Shawn and I talked. And, you know, it's just, you know, one thing that we always said when we were the Clique and we were in the band together, the 5 of us, that we said that we would, you know, we wouldn't do it when it wasn't fun anymore. And, you know, I talked to Shawn. Shawn said that, you know, that it was, you know, there were certain guys you could go out with, you know, the Jerichos, the Edges, the Takers, you know, Cenas, the Ortons, the Triple H's that he could go out with, and it was still fun because you went out there with somebody that knew the craft and had a feel for it. He said, but when he went out there with some of the young guys, he said they were so far from having the feel, if ever having the feel, and he said it just wasn't fun. He said that, you know, he had the option of, you know, A, calling it quits, or B, kind of recycling, you know, angles that he's already done for, you know, 10 years. And, you know, it just, you know, when he said when he got to that point, you know, in his career, he said that, you know, he said it was just time to walk away. And for me, you know, I had, you know, on top of, and I mean, it wasn't like, you know, like Dixie wasn't in charge of my contract. You know,
Dixie wasn't.
Was not. So she was under the impression that who she handed it off to, and I'm not going to bury that person, but who she handed it off to was taking care of the situation. And then, because she was doing other things, and she does do other things, and she also has a family, young children, blah, 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 like everybody else. So, you know, that's one thing that that a boss does is it has the ability to delegate power and delegate people to get things done, and the person or people that she delegated to get the situation taken care of didn't get it taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
By the time she and I talked on Thursday's live TV, my feelings were already hurt.
Yeah.
I'd had a horrible, probably, almost 2-week thing with my son being viciously attacked at school by a kid that was 18 years old that was, had repeated several grades. It was a special needs Chapter 9 kid that really shouldn't be. I mean, he has several violent offenses against kids, and I'm talking about just basically walking up to kids and striking them.
Mm-hmm.
And because he has special needs, it's like, if my son walked up and punched a kid for no reason, my son the minimum he would do would be a 10-day suspension. This kid walked up to my son after school my son was sitting cross-legged on a bench with, some people in front of him playing guitar, and just walked up and hit my son in the left orbital bone with 3 pretty good shots.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a big kid. The kid's got like a scar down his whole face. It looks like he's been in a knife fight or something. And it's just like this is supposed to be one of America's top 100 high schools that my son's in. And then you see, you sit there and you watch these things on Washington D.C. and my hometown of Detroit, and you say, if this is going on, and I just talked to my wife, talked to one of her friends, and her son was attacked today at school for apparently no reason. And you see, if this is going on at one of the top 100 high schools in America, what's going on in Philadelphia? What's going on in Baltimore? What's going on in Bed-Stuy? What's going on in Detroit?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in Washington D.C.? Like what? If it's going on here, like how I can't even fathom how bad it is. And then people are saying, well, the graduation rate's 27% in Washington D.C. or 28% in Detroit. I'm like, really? It's that high? We're fundamentally we have so many things wrong. Besides Owen, Japan $950 billion, and China $450 billion, and Russia $150 billion. Little things like that, we can't even pay the interest on the loans. But
Kevin Nash, are you? Wait a minute. Am I hearing some? Are you running for office?
You know what? You have to take drug tests for that.
We're gonna have to take a time out though, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the state of affairs in professional wrestling, and specifically with the way you see things in TNA wrestling. This is the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. A little vintage Kevin Nash music back from the WWE days. Our guest right now, Kevin Nash, here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Damian, I can picture this theme song in Atlanta next year,
Are you saying a little Hall of Fame action potentially for Mr. Nash?
Well, I don't see why he can't be a part of WrestleMania next year.
Shit, I'm sure I can't walk down to that music to Royal Rumble.
Oh, hey, that is true.
Right? Absolutely.
Well, Kevin Nash, many people have said it. I've said it before. Talking to you is always an education in the professional wrestling business. You're one of the smartest men, I think, in the business. You know wrestling in and out. Looking at the wrestling business as it is right now, both WWE and TNA, what would be your summary statement about the state of professional wrestling?
I mean, if I was looking at it as a hedge fund or stock market or anything like that, it's definitely the downtrend.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's things, like when we're such a channel surfing society,
yeah.
and the production quality of television, and this is specific to the basic soap opera aspect of it, is still being shot single camera. This is what kills me about pro wrestling. 1 week they explain why the camera's there. The next week the camera's there because the camera's there. The next week it's some crappy shot between a crack in the door, and they miss half of what they're trying to get.
Uh-huh.
But yet, if you watch, I was watching a rerun of Dog the Bounty Hunter, and Dog there's this fugitive in the Honolulu airport. It's like a big black guy, and he's going to flee to like Charlotte. So Dog goes in, and he goes in by himself, and Beth is on the walkie-talkie saying, talking to the biggest of the, not Leland, but the other kid, the bigger of the kids. And he's saying, your dad's in there, you need to get a ticket and get in there. Your dad's by himself. And people are watching the show, and actually with the IQ of most of the people of our country, they're like, yes, get your kid in there. But somebody like me watching it says, he's in there by himself. Well, somebody's filming it. You had a sound guy in there. You probably got an executive producer or producer, and there's no way you don't have a Honolulu police guy walking with you. So yeah, he's by himself with 5 guys, and then when the son comes in, he's got the same 5. So when they walk up to the guy on the show, he looks up, and he doesn't even throw a punch or do anything because it's apparent that, like, number one, you've got 2 cameras on you, two guys booming you. You got an executive producer, another guy back there, and probably 2 cops. Yet people go like, "Whew, that was a close call."
It's kind of like when Dixie was kidnapped last Thursday. But there was.
I said I would have to say that if I was Dixie Carter, and those 5 or 6 guys from the production crew did nothing to help her, she was kidnapped except film it. When you can't at least charge and see if maybe you could break your boss loose, you might get a raise.
At least, right?
What do I know? I'm unemployed.
Kev, if you had to have a clique of 2010, if you had to find someone to be Shawn Michaels, Scott Hall,
Elder Montoya,
who are the guys that you would pick if you had to start all over?
Are you talking in TNA or in general?
In general. Who would be your Shawn Michaels? Not saying he would be, but,
I think at that level right now it would be AJ.
Wow.
I think
that's one heck of an endorsement.
I would say that AJ, because AJ was kind of a flyer for a while, and then he learned how to brawl, and then he's learned how to promo, and he's not at Shawn's level yet, but AJ can definitely, I've never watched an AJ Styles match where people chant "You effed up, you effed up." He's pretty money on everything he does. Everything he does is solid. And the thing is, you can work with AJ 300 nights a year, and he's not going to hurt you. So, I guess that would be the closest.
Is that because he doesn't do a swanton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shawn used to do those moonsaults and crap on the floor on you with those knee braces, and Shawn would just look at you. We were laughing about it the other night, and Shawn would just say, "Hey, man, just do the best you can and just kind of break my fall."
Do the best you can.
The best you can to break my fall. Like, "Hey, you better not catch me. You better do the best you can to break my fall."
Scott Hall. Who would be your Scott Hall?
Scott Hall, because the guys have gotten smaller. You're not going to get a 6'6" guy that works like Scott Hall. So I'm going to go with Randy Orton.
Gotcha.
I'm going to go with Orton is in my Scott Hall spot.
And now we're looking for X-Pac. Well, we know where he
could be the most difficult.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, X-Pac, the thing about X-Pac was like, he was a brilliant. I'm going to go with a combination of two guys as my X-Pac. I'm going to go as the Motor City Machine Guns are my X-Pac.
There you go. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched them in the opening match the other night, Daytona Beach, and it was just like, people dig them.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that kills me is they've got a CD that they put out, and I have it in my car. I listen to it all the time, and it sounds like early Stooges. I mean, it's so Iggy influenced. It's like they're like good. Could you imagine if those guys went out, played a song, and then went to the ring? Oh my God, they may be over. It's like Christy Hemme can sing, but we're bringing Mickie James in because she can sing. We already got a girl that looks better than her that can sing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't get it.
But do you? Is part of that though the seeming need to go and grab those free agents from WWE once they are released?
You know what? My whole thing is this: is there's nobody smarter in this business than Vince McMahon. Mm-hmm. If he lets you go, I mean, you're tainted. If he doesn't want you, it's because you're a liability, or he just doesn't want to deal with you. If he can make $1 out of you, and you have any kind of sensibilities or any kind of, if you're going to die on his watch, no. If he tells you you need to go to rehab and you're not, that's one thing that wellness program has done is it's not a work. As much as everybody on earth wants to say that the wellness program is a work, it's not a work. If you're not going to get clean, you go away. And guys, and it's been proven. They're not afraid to send anybody out of there.
And it doesn't even long-term end up helping them. I think there was an article published yesterday or today about, I think the number was 7 or 9 people that have passed away in the last year or 2 years that had once performed in WWE, and obviously the spin of the article was against WWE and how they don't take care of people. But even with the wellness policy, which some people have said it's more of a protection clause for their company than anything else, I disagree. But even with that, they still have to put this campaign out there to show how good they do, because they actually sent out a bunch of articles and put an article on WWE.com showing their endorsements from the president, from John McCain, from Hillary Clinton, and stuff that's happened over the last 2 years.
People don't understand. People really think unless you've really spent time around an addict. I mean, and I'm not talking about like 4 hours. I'm talking about like 20 years of your life around somebody that's an addict. It is a disease. So to me, it's just like it's like, wow, like. These 8 guys from the WWE, went in for chemotherapy, but they still died from cancer once they quit the chemo.
Yeah.
It's just like people just are just so misinformed. It's just like, why don't you just quit? Gee, why? I bet you there's never been a time in their lives when they've woken up, in the gutter with a busted lip, missing a wallet, and said to themselves, you know what, this is really starting to get dangerous. I might maybe want to think about stopping this.
And it's those same people that have never had those challenges, so
right.
It's easy for them to say, just quit it, just don't do it.
That's exactly. It's the Bill O'Reilly mentality.
He was on The View today. I don't know if you heard. David Hero, I know you watched The View.
They walked on him.
Yeah. Whoopi and who? Joy Behar?
But my whole thing is this. If I'm doing a show, if I'm doing a show and two of my co-hosts walk, out of solidarity, don't you all walk?
Well, Barbara sat back and cut a promo.
Yeah.
Well, she was not happy.
She wasn't happy, but I mean, you knew Hasselbeck wasn't going anyplace.
She's waiting for permission, right?
She's actually. I've got text messages with her and McCain on my phone, so.
Those phones, I tell you.
Well, on that note, we're going to have to take another time out.
Please don't send your bald-headed husband after me.
We're going to come back with more Kevin Nash. We're going to talk about the state of wrestling as we see it now.
Well, we
basically
find out who is going to be Kevin Nash for Kevin Nash. We'll have to get that one after the break.
This is the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, streaming live at ESPNMilwaukee.com.
Philhelmuth, Wisconsin native and God's gift to poker. Have an ego, son? And you're listening to 540 ESPN Radio.
Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report here on 540 ESPN, streaming live at PWRshow.com and on Blog Talk Radio as well. Thank you for listening to us wherever you are out there. Damian Nelson here along with David Hero, and our guest here for the first hour is Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash, formerly of the NWO Wolfpack. A little bit of music that you're hearing there. How did it feel, Kevin, to be at Bound for Glory this past Sunday? And obviously a tribute to the moment that you were a part of back when the NWO was formed in 1996, back in that same building. TNA tried to recreate that moment as best they could. What were you thinking being there in the building Sunday night?
I mean, it's always surreal because I live, just down the beach from that building where a lot of people will say the genesis of the new pro wrestling kind of took place. People still threw something, so I was kind of proud of them.
That was really the kicker, though. The trash in the ring did it. That was the exclamation point, the period, the whatever. That was like, this is cool.
But no matter what they do, it will never mean as much as that night in
absolutely
96.
Not. Oh, absolutely not.
Hogan, Hall, and Nash standing tall in the ring, and Mean Gene Okerlund just going off. It was great. I mean, that changed the landscape of wrestling. So.
You know what, Dave? I won't disagree.
Before we took that time out, though, we were talking about the new clique. If there were a clique formed today, if Kevin Nash was reforming the clique of old and doing it with the talents available in either company today,
well, who would be those replacements?
Get
Triple H.
We do.
Who would be your hunter?
Okay, Triple H is going to be Robert Roode.
Wow.
That's a huge compliment right there.
We had him on, 2 weeks ago, Robert Roode was on this program.
I think that he's kind of Triple H, kind of Kurt Hennig. He just needs to get loose and do his own thing. But I think he's a breakout star.
Well, we've heard that for years, though. People have said that about Robert Roode.
It's hard to be. Shawn Michaels was with Marty Jannetty for years and years and years, and there's a certain level you can go to when you're in that tag situation. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like Shawn Michaels would show, but did he ever show the greatness that he did the minute that he kicked Marty through the plate glass and went his own way?
It's one of those wrestling moments you'll never forget.
Exactly.
And Marty dangling through that window over that ledge.
So I mean, it's just like, to me, it's just like it's really hard to share that, and especially when you then lumped in with Fortune, lumped in with, I don't know how many guys have got 104 in the ring. I think when I walked in there,
a lot of heels right now.
Mm-hmm.
It
grew real fast.
Yeah, it became viral quickly.
That's why they need Kevin Nash to come back and lead the baby faces to go against They and Fortune.
Well, you guys are going to ask who's going to take my spot.
Mm-hmm. Can it be done?
I think so, because no, it can't be, because you're not going to find like a 6'10" to 7-foot guy that has always had the ability to no matter what, give the aerial, just that high-flying feel to the wrestling match that he's in. Just work rate alone, it's going to be hard to find somebody to... Warlord's basically out of business. Ryan Gonzalez, God bless him, has passed on. So, just on work rate, it's going to be hard to match it. So I look at the intangibles and I say just, let's go to just personality, cavalierness, kind of the, really don't give a damn. And I say Brett Favre could take my
spot. Good old Brett.
Not like sitting there reading the USA in the morning with your camera phone in your hand, just deciding that, it looks pretty good right now. I'm just going to take a shot. Just pass it around.
Wow.
That's very Diesel.
Yeah, that is definitely. Yeah, you know what? You're right. You know what? I think we need to send you.
What kills me though? This is what kills me. Okay, Brett Favre sends this Jet journalist or whatever supposedly pictures of his genitalia.
Of his little gunslinger.
And she comes out with it like 29 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if somebody sends me a picture of their genitalia and I'm in any form or fashion offended, it's crazy. I've got this little trash can on my phone. I can press delete, and it goes away. I don't think that I would keep a documentation on it. So were you offended, or are you just an extortionist?
Yeah, she's looking to cash in. It's going to cost her a few $1 million.
And you know what? He offered her a pair of Wranglers, and that was it. And she said, "No, I'm not going for it." He said, I'll give you one of my Southern Miss hats. And he said, "No, I'm not doing it."
We have a chat room going live right now. People are sending in some questions and comments for you here during this interview as we're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report. One of them, a comment from a user by the name of Toyman Chris, saying, Kevin Nash brings so much to the microphone to be easily replaced. Definitely going to miss his presence. And a question out there is from Always Rocking, saying, do you think TNA could ever compete fully with the marketing company that WWE is?
Oh, I remember when Eric Bischoff first was, I heard that Eric was coming up to the WWE, and I said to him, you're going to go up to Stanford in a couple of weeks, right? He said, yeah, I've got my first meeting, and I'm going up there. And I said to him, you won't appreciate what you did in beating them for almost 2 years solid on television until you actually see the machine. Mm-hmm. When you see the machine that place has, an edit studio, it's, hold on a second, honey, I can't hear. My son did his first live mic tonight at a coffee house. He was playing a couple of his original songs.
Oh, nice. So, is there a chance, instead of Hogan Knows Best, it'll be Nash Knows Best? It's going to be about, your son and, going into the music world?
Yeah, because I've got an episode lined up where my son's missing, and there's an executive producer and a camera crew with my son, and I get really frustrated because I don't know where my son is, but I don't really realize that I should probably have the two production crews call each other, and then that way I could find them. Oh, never mind. I'm overanalyzing. It's me overanalyzing.
Wow. Another question from our chat room. Blanchard Buzz, the username says, what was your favorite moment in TNA wrestling?
Don't say Tuesday night.
My favorite moment? I had a world championship match with Jeff Jarrett, and we did all the layers, bells and whistles. X-Pac ran in. I think Billy Gunn ran in. 9,000 guys ran in. The only thing that screwed up was he was going to hit me with a cello, but the cello broke ahead of time. So I had to powerbomb poor Jeff on an ungimmick cello, which was put him through a damn Steinway. Oh. But that match was, Jeff and I have always had a really good relationship as far as in the ring. Everywhere, inside, outside the ring. He and I have always gotten along. And it's funny because, I'm just not a mark. I'm not going to lobby to get pushed, or I'm not going to lobby for a belt, or I'm not going to I go to work, and if you hand me something to do, I just do it. And I do it to the best of my capabilities. I'm not going to lobby. And I never did. You know, Vince called me up and said, I thought I was in trouble. He told me I was getting the belt. I didn't lobby to get the belt.
Mm-hmm.
As much as Bill Goldberg and everybody else thinks that I booked myself to win the, like, who on God's green earth would book himself to win the belt from Goldberg just so the next week he could do the Finger of Doom? I mean, what? Please, dear God, show me the upside to that mythology.
You know,
I'm going to have it for a week, and I'm going to lay down. And you know what? And people are still hot about that.
Yeah, they are.
Because they bought it.
Right. Yep.
They bought the fact that I was a good guy and that I wasn't going to put up with it, and I was going to fight for Bill's honor. And they bought it. And to me, that's one of my favorite things that I've ever done. Because people say, you know, that Finger of Doom, that Finger of Doom, she's like, yeah, it really, really got under your skin, didn't you? That's called real heat.
Right.
It's 15 years later and it still bothers you. It's like when you're a kid and you get your wisdom teeth taken out. You don't forget that. You know, it's just like, that worked, you idiots.
Speaking of which, and we're sort of getting on that wagon there, I'm going to give you the opportunity to address your critics. You did so on Twitter, and then you talk about a lot of people still.
Well, first of all, there is no better tweeter in the world after midnight than Kevin Nash, hands down.
It just depends if I've had like 3 bottles of like at least 15.4% wine.
What's the preferred wine of the night?
What's that?
What's the preferred wine of the night tonight?
Tonight, honey, what are you opening right now? It's Elise. Was that Sonoma Valley? Or Napa?
Tremendous. Well, we are going to take a time out, and when we come back, we're going to end and wrap up.
Marisoli Vineyards, Napa Valley, Elise.
Tremendous. We're going to wrap up with Kevin Nash when we come back right here on the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com. Welcome back to the award-winning Pro Wrestling Report, 540 ESPN, streaming live at pwrshow.com and on Blog Talk Radio. Damian Nelson and David Hero here with our guest, Kevin Nash. Kevin, it's been great talking to you for the whole first hour here. Always just great conversation.
Thanks, man.
And I said before we took that time out that we're going to give you an opportunity to address those few critics, those few but very vocal critics of Kevin Nash out there. You've done so on Twitter. You said that actually they motivated you to continue to prove them wrong and prove that you had what it took to be in the spots you were in the business.
Well, you know, to me it's just like, you know, you take a guy like Daniel Day-Lewis that's like, he really takes his time and picks his films. And he does, you know, 1 or 2 every 5 to 10 years, and you know he gets nominated. And you know he makes, you know, the lower budget movies, and he makes $1 or $2 million. Like, would I rather be that guy or would I rather be Stallone? I'm sorry, but I'm going to take the Stallone spot. Everybody, it was like USA gave The Expendables 1 star. I think it did 135.
Yeah. I'll take 1 star and 135 any day.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just like, yeah, nah. But my whole thing has always been this. Like, I always, if what we did was absolutely real, what would I do with my size and my strength? I would get you in the corner and I would beat on you as long as I could until you got out of that predicament. And I'd try to trap you in another corner and beat on you till you submitted, and or killed you. And it's like, that's like, why would I do a bunch of high spots?
Right.
Like a bear doesn't do that. What do they tell you to do when a bear comes up? Lie dead.
Yeah.
Do not say hit the ropes and hit him with a drop kick or try to slide behind him and roll him up, because he's going to pull your scalp off with his teeth.
Well, Kevin, unfortunately, we just have about 30 seconds left. We'll let you end it with saying, what's next? what are you going to do for the foreseeable future now that you are, at this point, done with TNA Wrestling?
I mean, I can't say that I'm done because, I haven't even had the conversation with the boss to say that I'm done. So it's just like, and under the circumstance of Bound for Glory, and and a lot of people are going to dump heat on that girl from Jersey Shore, and it's just like, that's so unfair. I mean, she was so deer in the headlights the other day. I mean, she seemed like a really pleasant kid. It's like, it's not her fault. So it's like, you know what? It's one of those things where I've been owned for so long. I woke up today, I wasn't owned, and I went and watched my kid play guitar.
Yeah.
And it was just like, sometimes you just need to decompress. Like, to me, I feel like one of the Chilean miners that just got out.
Number 34.
I was 34. Could you imagine if the 34th guy got out and somebody from West Virginia said, listen, I know you're a little bit exhausted, but we're going to fly you to West Virginia. We got a coal mine to throw you in. I guarantee you he'd say, no, let me take some time and think about it.
Perfect way to end it. Kevin Nash, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be the first to speak to you after Bound for Glory and after the contract ending in TNA on Tuesday. Best of luck to you. We look forward to talking to you again very soon.
We're going to see him at the Royal Rumble. I'm telling you right now.
I think we heard it here tonight.
I might dye my shit. I mean, my hair.
Perfect ending to a perfect interview. Kevin Nash, thank you so much for joining us here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Thanks, guys.
To Jason Wilde during Homer and the D-List weekdays on 540 ESPN.
David Hero, what a show. It's a whole hour of Kevin Nash. Thank you to Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash is just an all-around great guy.
It's a whole hour of big sexy.
Can't beat it, and the Pro Wrestling Report brought it to you as only we can. So thank you very much.